we have just 26 days. Let that sink in for a moment. Because in 26 days, we could see something happen for the first time in history here in the United States. And this is not a good thing. And it's because of this potential disastrous event that I need to warn you. But before I give you this warning, can you do me a favor? Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy the truth and the facts about what is currently happening here in our economy. And now, let's begin. So in just 26 days from today is May 6th, 2023, the United States government could default on its debts. You're probably thinking, well, that's nothing new. That's not new information. We already knew this. Where's the new information? Well, here's the new information. President Biden is looking at doing something that is very different. According to a recent report, President Biden is considering a maneuver that some constitutional scholars are saying they question its validity. Okay, so he is going to kind of bend the rules to get something done. Here's what the report is indicating. This report indicates that President Biden has had ample conversations with his legal team about invoking the 14th Amendment. Probably thinking, well, how would the 14th Amendment do anything for the debt ceiling and this debt crisis that we are about to face? Well, the 14th Amendment has a provision that says that public debt shall not be questioned. So what President Biden and his legal team is looking into, could he invoke the 14th Amendment because it says public debt shall not be questioned? Because a lot of this debt is public debt. Now, it is here that some constitutional scholars and economists, they believe that President Biden could actually take executive action in the event that there's no possible agreement before the June 1st date. Because if Congress cannot come to an agreement, then President Biden or the United States is going to have to take action. President Biden could take this executive action. He could invoke the 14th Amendment. And according to reports, there will be a legal fight on his hands. The other option is Congress just allows the U.S. to default on its debts. That once this happens, we could see hundreds of thousands of jobs be impacted because of this. Be impacted before we ever get to June 1st. You know why it's such an important date, June 1st? And again, 26 days away from today. Well, that's an important date because that is when we could technically default on our debts. But according to many experts, we would actually see the pain come before that. The pain would likely come a week before. Keep that in mind. A week before, 19 days. That's less than 3 weeks away. We could see pain. Pain in the stock market, your job. We could see your job go away instantly. Instantly. This is why this is such a big deal. And I think a lot of people are kind of overlooking this, thinking that Congress is going to pass something. They're going to get a deal done. There's no way they default on our debts. Well, this takes me to the next point. Listen to this. A report out just the other day says that more than 40 Senate Republicans have already signed a letter telling President Biden and other Democratic leaders that they will not back any bill that raises the debt ceiling without substantive spending and budget reforms. That was actually in the letter. In the letter, it also states, and I quote, "The Senate Republican Conference is united behind the House Republican Conference in support of spending cuts and structural budget reform as a starting point for negotiations on the debt ceiling." Key word here, starting point. The letter also goes on to say, and I quote, "As such, we will not be voting for cloture on any bill that raises the debt ceiling without substantive spending and budget reforms." They are not going to step forward and give Democrats what they want. Democrats want Republicans to just say, okay, let's increase the debt ceiling. No spending cuts. We will talk about that later. Republicans say, no, we're going to talk about spending cuts and budget reforms now. And if you come closer to what we are asking for, then and only then, we will give you what you want and we will increase the debt ceiling. Now, here's the thing. You know how Democrats have always been, for the American people. Let's give them what they need. Let's give them assistance and, different relief, programs. We've seen it over the past 2 years. There's been a lot of different relief. There's been a lot of additional stimulus. Guess what? And somebody asked me just the other day, is why isn't anybody talking about additional relief? Why aren't we talking about more, spending programs for the American people? Because, inflation is getting so difficult. How can we make it through this? How can we put money in our pockets? How can we pay off our debts? How can we do all these things when the U.S. government is not helping us in any way? Well, here's the reason why. And again, Republicans, they aren't going to go and pass a massive spending bill. But you know why Democrats haven't been proposing it? How are they going to pay for it? How would they pay for a massive spending bill? That's the issue. They can't just continue to push us further and further into debt. Our deficit can't go up anymore. Not until we increase it. We have to increase our debt ceiling. This is the problem. And this is why we aren't seeing any new bills from Democrats. Because if they propose a new bill, you know what Republicans are going to do? They're going to slam them and ask them, well, okay, great, but how do you want to pay for this? Where is this money going to come from? Because right now, we just don't have the money. Now, we also heard from Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, and he had this to say. He says, and I quote, "In this situation, and I've been through a few of these debt ceiling dramas, there is no solution in the Senate. We have a divided government. The American people gave the Republicans the House. The Democrats have the presidency." He goes on to say, the president and the speaker need to reach an agreement to get us past this impasse. That's exactly right. So all those news outlets are saying, well, the Senate's doing this, the Senate's doing that. Honestly, the Senate is doing absolutely nothing. The Senate has no power at this point because if a deal is not reached between President Biden and Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, because again, in the House, they just need the majority to vote. That's it. Okay? That's all they need. Republicans have the majority. They can vote in the House. The problem is in the Senate. How do they get enough people, enough Republicans to jump on board with Democrats or get enough Democrats to jump on board with Republicans? This is the problem. And this is why both the president and the Speaker of the House have to agree on the same bill. They have to put a bill together. They have to put some piece of legislation together, the two of them. Or else we will not come to an agreement. We will not get a deal done. And this is something that economists say, we cannot afford this. Okay? We can't afford to see us default on our debts. But here's the other thing. And the reason why I bring this all up, because we got 26 days. Okay? And the reason why I say, you have to know what's going on is because experts are telling us the pain is going to come before the default date, the X date. That's when we'll start seeing the pain. The stock market is going to sell off. Okay? Now, if we get an agreement, great. But according to the reports right now, is you cannot afford to miss out on this information. You need to know what's going on because if we don't come to an agreement and we are 3 days away from June 1st, the stock market's going to take a massive hit. We could see employers lay off their employees just because they are worried about what is going to happen. Okay? We could see massive changes that will happen instantly. And this is a problem. This is why I tell you, you need to be prepared. Have a little bit of money saved up. Have some of your debts. Obviously, you don't want to have a lot of debt. You don't want to, have all these payments every single month. Right now, we're 26 days away. I don't think you're going to be able to pay off a bunch of debt. But have money set aside. Have some money in your possession as well. Okay? Gold and silver if you can. Make sure that you have food, you have water. Make sure you're prepared. Because this is going to be the first time in history that we ever defaulted on our debts. If it happens. And I hope it doesn't. I don't think it will, but there's still a possibility. If this is the first time it happens, nobody knows what's going to happen afterwards. We can hear all the reports, we can see all the statements from the Treasury, but again, nobody knows what's actually going to happen. So, be prepared, be ready, because again, all this stuff is happening right around the corner. So, as we get more information, I promise I will fill you in on all the latest news and updates. All you got to do, click that subscribe button, and you will never miss an update. But that's what I got for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.